I say rework Oblation into being like Sage's Haima ability, which is a single target shield at about 150 potency that when it breaks refreshes itself a few times to make it like a shield version of Aurora, a heal over time effect, but it's barrier over time effect. I say add a self-healing component to Living Dead, making the Dark Knight feel a little less helpless, while stressing out healers a little less. Lastly, I say the Blackest Knight needs some major love. As a follow-up to my last video where I identified big concerns for the Dark Knight going into Endwalker, I want this video to be the counterpoint to it. I want it to be my ideas to resolve the issues that I found with the Dark Knight that we discussed at length. Obviously, I'm not an omnipotent person, and I do not claim to be a game designer, nor do I ever think that I could ever be one, but these are things that I know would help me personally as a longtime player of this game, as someone who has tanked and savage raiding, to make me want to play the Dark Knight a lot more. Because right now, I don't want to play the Dark Knight at all compared to other tanks when Endwalker hits. I really don't, and that's not a diss. I wouldn't be making this video if I was trying to hate on the Dark Knight. I want to see it improve because I want to love it like I have in the past. Like right now, it's my current favorite tank. Let's get right into it. First up is my most insane request, and I know it's a little different, is Oblation I want to be reworked. Which this skill, Oblation, is going to tie into the larger discussion that we're going to have on the Blackest Knight that I'm going to be talking about in a few minutes here, and while the 10-second duration of 10% mitigation sounds fine, compared to every other tank that we're seeing going into Endwalker, to be frank, it's garbage. I'd in fact say that compared to the other tank cooldowns, it almost feels annoying in comparison. To do what their single button press does, actually less than a single button press if I'm to be quite frank when you look at the numbers, you need to do 2 off GCD weaves. You do TBN, and then you do Oblation. In comparison, that's painful. Literally doubling the amount of work for a little less reward. Oblation is kind of like that rusted up, banged up Subaru for God knows when you bought it, while the other tanks are driving around in Ferraris and Lamborghinis called Bloodwedding, Heart of Corundum, and Aurora alongside Paladin with Holy Sheltron. In my opinion, Oblation isn't adding anything really major to the Dark Knight's kit when you're looking at literally any other tank cooldown, so to me, Oblation needs to be reworked into something else. Take its current form, pack this 10% mitigation into TBN, which we're going to have a longer discussion on that later, but that mitigation with the tank spammable cooldown never should have been separated in my opinion. There are counterpoints to that I will explore, but in general, I think that we have now made something that should be very simple into way too many different things. Right now, Oblation doesn't feel like it's adding to the kit, which is one of the worst feelings that I can have as a player going through the skill list. If we take a look at Oblation's counterpart, which is going to be in the Gunbreaker's kit, which is Aurora, which is a 1,200 potency heal over time, now I'm going to propose something absolutely batshit insane here. What if Oblation was a second shield that could stack with TBN? Oh yeah, we're talking about some big boy crazy stuff now. Some crazy shield in here. Now, it's kind of not something that is new at all to this game. Scholar can stack Adlos, Galvanize, and Catalyze with Seraph. This has always been an interaction that you could do as a Scholar. You can layer on your shields. Or Sage and Endwalker can layer Eucrasian Diagnosis with Haima. So is this some radical idea we've never seen before? Absolutely not. We've seen this in spades before. In fact, I know Endwalker is removing Nocturnal Asp, but currently Noct Asp can even layer on their shields. This is not a mystery at all. But what I am going to say is that every other tank in Endwalker brings out stupid amounts of healing. Heck, even Divine Veil and Shake It Off literally have 300 potency of Air of Effect healing tied onto those shields. Dark Knight doesn't even offer this kind of healing at all. There's no healing really coming from the Dark Knight. So I say, with Oblation, I propose making the Dark Knight just a big, juicy, thick barrier healer version of a tank. Barrier healer of tanks. Because all 3 other ones are just farting out so much healing that it's like, oh my good god. I'm gonna kind of ease us into the idea. So let's say that Oblation is just a single target 400 potency shield. It doesn't even need to scale with percentages. It doesn't need to be insane output like 1,200 like Gunbreaker's Aurora. I'm not proposing a 1,200 potency shield because, to be frank, that'd be a little freaking insane. But what I'm gonna propose is that we already have our big beefy shield. That is TBN itself. So where Oblation could be very interesting is that Oblation could be reworked to be something like Haima in the Sage's kit, which is a brand new skill that we haven't really seen anything equal to in 14 yet, where Haima is an upfront 150 potency shield that when it breaks, it refreshes itself a total of 4 times when it breaks, meaning that you are getting that shield, but it's like a shield over time. It's the shield equivalent of a heal over time. If you made Oblation like that, that would be incredible. You would make Oblation an iconic, fresh skill in 14 that I know for a fact many tanks would appreciate. Shield equivalent of Gunbreaker's heal over time. That would be incredible. Maybe it's less potency because 150, let's say it only lasts 3 times. Okay, sweet, you're still getting 450 potency. Maybe you do it a total of 4 times that it breaks. You're getting 600 potency. That is going to be literally half of the heal over time effect, but you know what? This would still make Oblation a very interesting skill. Now I want to talk about, people will say that's too strong, and of course it would be, but do you know what else is strong? Stacking healing effects with Heart of Corundum and Aurora that the Gunbreaker can do in Endwalker no problem. Gunbreaker even gives the darn 200 potency barrier that they get from Brutal Shell. Now second up is Living Dead. My key issues really summarized in a super short form is, number 1, as the Dark Knight myself, I feel helpless when I'm using it. I am fully dependent on the healer and I can't do squat to prevent myself from dying. I hate that, and I know I'm not alone. Second point is, as a healer, unless I myself or my co-healer is a white mage with Benediction off of cooldown and ready, which is kind of funny because the entire skill Benediction gets slotted as, this skill resolves Living Dead, but that's a totally separate discussion for later. But this, as a healer skill, stresses me out. Or rather, the Living Dead skill as a healer going into Endwalker stresses me out. It requires so much effort, and it has been kind of a pain in my butt for years now at this point. But there are more details, but I want to talk about how to make these pain points disappear. First option is you make it so that the Dark Knight has a significant healing boost to any healing abilities or skills used, so make it so that this also impacts Lustrate or Essential Dignity, please, like a 20% or 30% healing amplification. This will help non-white mages resolve this mechanic easier, or white mages that simply want to use Benediction for an actual emergency. Right now, resolving Living Dead, or rather not resolving Living Dead with Benediction, feels like a kick to the nuts to the healer, and not having a healer resolve it feels like a kick to the nuts for the Dark Knight. So this kind of brings me to the question of who's winning here exactly with this current formulation. Now in terms of the feeling of helplessness, I think that this would be resolved if the Dark Knight had some sort of lifesteal mechanic like in League of Legends or an Ascent Flash for Warrior today in Final Fantasy XIV, or heck, even like Cardia system for Sage. There are tons of examples of it. Maybe the Dark Knight under this effect, the Living Dead effect, when it's like zombified, heals itself for 400 potency per skill used. I'm literally ripping 400 potency from the Warrior's Bloodwetting skill. It's literally in game. That alone would make me feel like I had some sort of agency as the tank myself, as the Dark Knight myself over my life, and help even the healer. Honestly, between these two options, I'd actually prefer this second one because I think that this would help the healers too, as well as give me more of a sense of control. And I don't like to have an external locus of control, I like an internal locus of control, and please give me it. Now the third and final issue was the Blackest Knight simply falls behind every other tank's default short cooldown. When paired with the cost of the skill, which is 3000 MP, definitely makes it a lot harder to just use. You can't just willy-nilly use it. I'm not going to really elaborate more on that point since I talked about that for like 5 minutes straight in my last video, which I do invite everyone to check out. But my first thought is that berries in and of themselves are amazing to me. They have so many perks, like I can heal underneath them with Cardia or Fairy Heals. Trickle Heals are very, very good with barriers. It doesn't overheal. So would I expect something like a 1200 potency shield? No, I think that that would be absolutely ridiculous. But for the Blackest Knight, I think to keep it in line with other tanks, I think it would be fair to boost the shield to even a 35% barrier. That's only 10% more than current day, which is 25%, which I think would keep it in line with other tanks, but still make it so that the Dark Knight's like something that has a big payoff, a big mitigation component to it. Remember that the Dark Knight, by default with TBN, isn't providing you 10% or 30% damage mitigation. Warrior's providing 20 upfront. Dark Knight offers 0. 35% barrier I think would be more than fair. As the Warrior's also offering 1600 potency of HPS through the barrier and their healing. I think that this is more than fair to suggest. Alternatively, you could put that 10% mitigation from Oblation into this skill as well. This gets into a really awkward conversation about TBN, how it needs to break in 7 seconds in order to reward skillful gameplay, which will give you a charge of dark arts that you can then spend on powerful skills. I'd say with this in mind, maybe extend TBN's duration to 10 seconds, because yeah, nothing sucks more than TBN not breaking, but there are levers in the game that can be turned to make it slightly more accessible without simply never buffing TBN in fear of this. And when I look at TBN, I'm definitely thinking maybe there's a level of fear or apprehension to making TBN's mitigation stronger in fear that it won't break. I think that there are other options that we could explore with TBN being buffed that would still allow it to break. Anyhow, this video has already gone over the time that I was aiming for, so I'm gonna see you guys later. I hope that you have a fantastic day and stay safe. Take care, everyone.